This is the install video for our Glock +2 extensions. We have recently changed our design from our back locking plate to our front screw system that we're changing all of our parts to. The +2s work on both the 19 or the compact and the full-size mags due to the shape of the bottom of the mags themselves. The full-size and compact have a different mag angle, so on our +6 extensions they are specific to the full-size or compact mags, but on the +2, because it's only adding a certain amount of distance, it doesn't interfere with the mag angle being that way. So to disassemble the mag plate, usually I just use a Glock tool. I press down the locking plate and then pinch in on the sides here and pull the plate forward. It is very difficult to do a lot of the time, especially with a mag that's never been disassembled before. And it's actually bending this new Glock tool already. So I did pick this up off of Amazon to test it out. I think this plus the Glock tool and something was like around 13 bucks. It might be something worthwhile. Let's try it and see. Push that down. I'm still pinching in the sides here. And pull that forward. That works a whole lot nicer. Reason why I pinch in the sides is because these notches here, which line up with the notches in the plate, kind of lock it in, as well as the stock locking plate. Now, the stock Glock springs lately have been very short. For the +2, we don't provide an extra spring, but depending on how short it is, it might be worthwhile to grab a longer spring. So this one is the stock +2. It doesn't quite work with this fancy tool, but same thing, push that in. As far as you can get it in, the plate on these is longer and comes up in the front here, so you want to push this in a lot deeper. Squeeze the sides in as much as you can and pull that forward. This one has been taken apart a few times. As you can see, there's a bit of wear on the rails themselves. The spring on this one is much longer. This is probably one of our extra coil springs. It has been disassembled a few times. You can see the spring itself isn't quite as straight as it used to be. It is kind of bent a little bit. You can try to bend them back, straighten them out as much as you can. It doesn't need to be changed out quite yet, probably, but the Glock springs are kind of finicky when you disassemble the mag a few times. If it gets too far bent, you might want to change out to a new spring. The disassembly process is a bit difficult for when you're disassembling an extension. This one, because that plate was able to push down so far, didn't really have an issue, but while you're disassembling, I'll show you once I get this on here. So our new locking system is those 2 screws, and what you'll want to do first is actually remove the screws. And apply a little bit of Loctite, because there's no tension on the screws other than the actual magazine giving just a little bit of tension if it makes contact. But if it's not always making contact, there's nothing really to hold the screws in place. That's why we do recommend some Loctite. This is the Loctite we offer on our website, just a little sample vial, because you don't need much at all. Just a little bit on the threads there, like that is all you need. And then you'll actually want to put the screw in so that it sits underneath the surface, just slightly, so that the mag can slide over top of it. You don't want too much to where it's going to bubble out the top of the extension a whole bunch. Like that one came over the top a little bit as it goes down. So I would recommend grabbing some paper towel and just lightly wiping the top of those off. So now you'll want to press your spring all the way down in there and then start to slide it on. And then once it gets to that point where it comes to those, you'll want to pinch the sides in, keep pressure down on top so that it doesn't want to pop up over the rail as you're pinching the sides in, and slide it forward. It will lock in on those notches, but still you want to back the screws out in order to capture the front of it. Usually 4 to 5 turns is all you need. You just want to have it up enough that it captures that front there, so that if you're dropping your mags and it wants to pop forward, it's got nowhere to go. Perfect. So that adds 2 rounds to the Glock 19 mag. Sits out nicely so you can grab hold of it if you have a jam. The same thing with the Glock 17 mag. Now, on this one, the spring isn't sticking out as much. You can stretch the springs a little bit so that it sticks out more. On the +2s, I'd recommend that. If you don't grab our extra coil springs on the +6s, like I said, we provide a spring because these stock springs just aren't good enough in order to handle it. Same thing, a little bit of Loctite on there. Drop the screw, clean up that Loctite. It's a little bit too much. Dab it off. On these small threads, it is a good idea to turn to the left first until you feel it drop into that first thread. And then, see, it's tight right there, so that's not quite in there yet. And there we go. It is a good idea so that you don't risk cross-threading. So they're just under the surface. Okay, same thing. Hold your spring down. Start to slide it over the back. Get to that point, and then press in the sides. Push it forward. Now, I want to show you the disassembly. So you'll want to push in those sides again and pull it back. And so now you're catching the spring, which is inside of there, wanting to stop in there. So what I do is I take a screwdriver. This one is actually a little bit wide. You should probably grab a narrower screwdriver, just a flathead, and then cut a notch into the blade. And what you want to do with that notch is grab the edge of the spring, push it down into there so that it's pulling the spring out from inside of there, and now it's resting on that again, so that when you pull the extension back, it's not going to really bend the spring. The difference on the Glock magazines is that their rail comes all the way to the edge, where the steel mags usually has some difference there, so the springs are allowed to flex easily and come back, where this has to come like all the way tight there where it would pinch the spring. So I would highly recommend grabbing a cheap screwdriver and doing that so that you protect the springs from bending back like that first one, how it was kind of kinked, probably because I didn't do a good job of disassembling it. But this spring feels like it has enough tension for the +2. The +2 would sit out about there, but I am going to swap it out. So to change the spring out, it's got that coil on the inside there. You just kind of want to pop it off. These are the extra coil springs that we offer. They are made by Wolf Spring. It has one extra coil, and they're also spaced out properly so that it sits quite a bit longer than the stock spring. So you'll have a lot more spring tension on the +2s than you would on the +6s, but if you're having any issues, it's a good idea to just go ahead and swap out the Glock springs, because the stock springs are just not very good at all. You may just start providing a spring for the Glock +2s as well, and just increase the price enough to cover the spring, like we have done on the +6s. Same thing, it's, you know, sitting much longer now, so it's going to be harder to pull down that spring. Get it to that point, pinch in the sides, and pop it forward. And then just like the other one, you'll want to now back the screws out. The angle of the full size is a much steeper angle than on the compact, so it's a little bit harder to get that wrench in there. Make sure you have good contact inside of the head when you put it in and start to twist. If you don't have good contact, you can wear the teeth out on the screw or the wrench, and then it'll be harder to disassemble. You don't need to back them out a ton, just enough so that they capture that rail a little bit. And that is the full size. This is our new competition size magwell for the Glock Gen 5. It is just slightly larger than the EDC magwell that we've been providing. You see, it doesn't pop up, so it just keeps the full length there, as well as is slightly wider. We are making them in brass, and we also have some in aluminum for the competition guys, just to have a bit more of a magwell funnel there. So that is the install for the +2s for the Glock magazines.